Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Product Coster session this afternoon, cloud-based costing for mid-sized manufacturers. We're really excited to have you all join us today for this 30-minute session. I do have a ton that I want to get through today, so I'm going to just start cranking really quickly. Just by way of introduction, I'm your host today. I'm part of the sales and marketing team at 3C Software, but my reason for talking to you today is because I'm a part of the product team that's delivering this Product Coster tool that's really designed to help mid-sized manufacturers solve some challenges that they have in costing. So welcome and thanks so much for joining us today. I want to start off with a quick stat. And this stat comes from a recent survey of about 850 CFOs across the globe. So companies are really bracing for a rocky second half of the year, especially since no one was really planning to lose 25% of their revenue this year. I mean, that's a pretty stark statement about the expectations of many of the companies for the year. So finance teams are faced with some serious decisions, some of which we'll talk about here in the session today, that will affect your financial future, the well-being of your employees, your customers, your stakeholders, the society at large. I mean, a lot is happening right now. And while revenue impacts will be significant, often those changes are largely out of control of the finance teams. You know, revenue comes as a result of a customer choosing to spend money. And while we can do our best at our organizations to convince them and try to lead them to that decision, we can't ever really make them spend the money. But every time I look at a stat like this around revenues, I'm brought back to the most fundamental equation in business. Profit equals revenue minus cost. You know, it's the cornerstone equation. It's always true, no matter if you're running a lemonade stand in your neighborhood or a multinational conglomerate. So as someone who lives in this world of cost, there's one thing that I know to be true about, a few things I know to be true about this equation. First, like I shared a few minutes ago, there's not much you can do about the revenue. Of course, you need to have good product fit and a compelling sales message. And you can also encourage revenue through discount programs or rebate programs or other areas beyond cost of goods sold. But the real power that you have is the power to influence your profits by managing and controlling your costs. The better you know your costs, the better you can predict your profits. The more detailed the cost results you have, the better you can affect the changes to maximize your profits. So it's a really powerful equation. I always lean back on it and think about it. You know, and let's talk about what's happening today. Today, there's intense focus on a lot of areas where we need cost information. You know, what's interesting about this list, every single one of them has a costing implication that you as finance leaders need to face. So manufacturers are facing a wide range of challenges. And to be honest, you know, it's likely that you won't know the full impact of those challenges of the current events for months or even years to come. You know, things like location closures, deciding whether or not you want to temporarily or permanently shift your manufacturing. You know, consumer changes, what are the customers wanting? Even in the last 3 months, we've seen consumer demand change pretty rapidly and unpredictably. You know, supply chain interruptions, if you are offshoring either production or you're bringing in goods from other places, it's really tough. Production delays, regulatory changes, workforce changes. There are a lot of things that we have to consider, and all of them are tied to costing. What's interesting, before this all happened, the world was already focused on costing. This is one of my favorite quotes from a Deloitte study that came out about a year ago, and that is 93% of companies are or will be taking action to improve the quality of their cost information. But I want to take a second just to unpack that study a little bit. There are a couple of other things in that study that were really interesting. You know, why are these folks really focused on costs? You know, it turns out that companies are really shifting to thinking about controlling costs and controlling their destiny. You know, the finance leaders that were interviewed, they're sharing that the top role of costing information right now is to support their business strategy. You know, 64% of these folks were thinking about strategic decisions when they were thinking about improving their costing. And 61 of those folks were thinking about reducing costs as a reason for cost information. So there's a lots of reasons why we are really focused on costing, but really it is about driving strategy. It's about making better decisions in your organization. So here's the takeaway. Making a better strategic and cost management decision rests firmly in your organization's ability to calculate, harness, and share information across the organization. That's really where the rubber meets the road. But why is it so hard to get cost data? Usually it's hampered by technology choices, honestly. On one hand, you have spreadsheet costing, those often free or relatively expensive programs that allow you to build anything you want, any kind of model that you want. On the other side is ERP costing, really big heavyweight applications that often have predefined costing processes. So there's a real challenge there with thinking about the tool sets that may be available. Let's dig in a little bit. Spreadsheets. The costing truth here is that most of the time costing is done in spreadsheets. You're downloading information from other systems, compiling and coordinating inputs from other spreadsheets, even manually entering data into individual spreadsheets to calculate costs. The important thing to note about this is that the spreadsheets, in the spreadsheet process, the formulas and exceptions exist at the spreadsheet level, right? Spreadsheet models are incredibly difficult to build and maintain because of their complexity and the complexity required to calculate useful cost results. And as you can see here on the diagram, they live in silos. So it's easy to get caught up in sharing and versioning. It's really tough to do that. And think about how many products you have. This shows 5. If you have 500 or 5,000, it makes it very tough. The next one, next thing to think about is the large data sets that you're trying to manage. If you've used spreadsheets, that's a problem. They're difficult and opaque to determine because spreadsheets are often F1 plus F3 minus F2. It really is hard to figure out how things are being calculated, and it requires a significant amount of human intervention. A lot of effort with getting them working and a lot of effort to explain the results. So we hear, hey, I'm going to get one of those spreadsheet consolidation tools. That looks really interesting. It's really great, but what it does is it only puts a box around the spreadsheets instead of really solving the problem. You're just kind of wrangling the problem into submission. It's great. You get rid of the silos that the models exist in, and you'll probably get some cool interfaces and GUI screens that you can use, but it doesn't solve anything from the efficiency. It doesn't solve anything like maintaining complex models. It doesn't do anything to expand your costing capabilities. And then also you have to find a resource to manage those things, another employee or a consultant to act like the consolidation tool. I have a customer that had a person, and his full-time job was to help them figure out this whole costing problem by building it in spreadsheets. It took him over a year. He was able to do a fantastic job. It only covered 10 of the 10,000 products that they deliver. They only felt confident in doing that. That was probably a $50,000 a year salary position that someone was responsible for building these sheets, and they were unable to scale it beyond the 10 products. So we start thinking about other systems. Of course, ERP is going to make the list of things that you're thinking about. You have a robust business, you're probably considering ERP. It makes sense because there's always a cost module included. But what really happens is that ERP systems are transactional in nature. They're really not designed for analytical capabilities. So while you can do some customization in costing modules in ERP systems, what you really need often as a complex manufacturer is something a little different. You need the ability to run simulations. You need the ability to handle exceptions and rules. So oftentimes what we find is that even with an ERP cost module, you will download that information into spreadsheets to be able to handle the analytics that you need for the real costing that you want to do, right? So even though you've spent, I don't know, many tens of thousands of dollars on your ERP cost module, you may not get what you need and you still end up in the spreadsheet world. So where's the opportunity here? It's getting beyond spreadsheets that just hold information, or give you information. It's even moving beyond ERP, where you can get knowledge and maybe some insight about what's happening in your costing world. But there is a chance at costing nirvana. Costing analytics is what you need. You need to be able to go beyond even connecting the dots. You need to allow it to really help you create impact inside the organization. So I want to take a few minutes to share with you a different costing option. Product Coster, it's our cloud-based product costing tool. It checks off all the challenges that we've identified and talked about a little bit today. And the way that it works is pretty straightforward. You can pull data in from existing systems or even enter it manually because there are times when that's necessary, right? And once inside the walls of the product coster, you have an environment to handle all the complicated costing issues. It has a high performance calculation engine, meaning that thousands of rows of data can be costed very quickly. You know, if you can't do it fast, then it doesn't mean anything. But at the core of it is a centralized rule and exception management system. So no more picking through formulas or staring at an ERP black box to determine how. You can really get a good solution. You can really get a contained solution to handle all of your product costing challenges. And then you can export that data and share it out to others, either exporting it back to your ERP system, to your BI or reporting tools like Tableau, or other things like that. Or even if you want to download it and share it in a spreadsheet, because sometimes it's really convenient to get folks to information in that way. So enough about me talking about the product coster. I want to spend a little bit of time exploring a few of the screens so you can get a feel for it. So I'm going to flip over here to my product coster application. Product coster is powered by Impact ECS. The Impact ECS platform has been around in some version for just about 30 years now. We've been around for a long time solving this costing challenge. But what we realized is that there's a universe of mid-sized manufacturers who need really robust costing but don't need an enterprise project. So Coster sort of bridges that gap and gives you the best of both worlds. So as you can see here, on the left side, there's navigation, and we'll hit a couple of these areas, but product costing and simulations and cost estimates are some of the activities that you can do inside of the Coster. But I'm going to start in one particular area, and that's the product cost summary. And what the product cost summary does is it allows you to see all of the products that you are producing and some high-level costing data. I'm going to go ahead and open period 5 here. So just that quickly, this is a pretty big data set, but you can see it opened up right away. And what this is showing me is every product that I have here, and I have a few pages of information here that I can page through. But this is every product that I have that I can get information from. I can see the cost subsystem, I can see some information about their descriptions, and I can see some summary costs. I have some attributes here that I have hidden inside of the columns. So things like item types, these are rubber or vinyl. This particular example client produces rugs and mats and carpet and things like that. So some of their primary attributes are length, width, weight, square footage, and then we have a total cost. And this is every cost that we calculate for this customer. I have a summary total cost, but if I expand that out, I can see every one of them. I can see the material costs, the labor costs, the overhead costs. I have lots of different information. All of these cost categories and attributes are defined by the customer. So you can have as many of these that you want that make sense for your particular company or manufacturing process. There's also some pretty nice sorting and filtering things. So if maybe you only want to look at one set of data, you can filter down and do some quick comparisons. But it's a really nice opportunity to be able to look at everything that you're doing in one place. So imagine every one of these rows is one of those spreadsheets. And how is that one of those spreadsheets? If I click into the details of these, I can give you a bit of an example. I'm going to pick, it doesn't really matter, I'm going to pick this product here. And if we open it up, we can see a little bit of information about this product. Our local factors tab gives us some general summary information, including what period we're operating in, what some detailed, these fields should look familiar from the screen that we just came from, some summary screens, and this is all great. And if we want to look at the detail, we can click into the product cost detail tab. What you get to see here is that we maintain parent-child relationships between those. So this one is just a two-level product, so you can see some information here. But it gives you the roll-up, so you're able to see every level, and also you're able to see every detailed calculation for every level. One of the things that's really great about Product Coster is that we keep information at the natural cost element detail, so you always have the option or opportunity to click down and drill down as far as you want to into each of the costs to see exactly where a cost occurred. So those are a couple things about just generally what you're seeing when you see a product cost, but there are a lot of really other great functions that I want to show you. One of the things that I want to talk about just for a moment is the data. So depending on your manufacturing operation, you have your own unique set of data, and we handle that, sorry, I clicked the wrong tab here. we have a couple of different types of data within Product Coster. The first one are sort of our master data tables. So these should look familiar, things like your GL account. I'll just click this one. So these are all of the GL accounts that are available to this particular customer. A way that the rules are assigned within Product Coster is by choosing and setting up your data set so that it understands how to apply the rules. So for example, in this GL account master list, you'll see account expense types. Are they fixed? Are they variable? Are they semi-variable? We can choose all of these. What kind of cost category should these be associated with? Is it a material cost? Is it a labor cost? Is it an overhead cost? Is it a cash or non-cash activity? Every GL account gets assigned those sets of attributes or any others that make sense, so that when the rules are applied to calculate costs, each time this GL account is encountered within the system, it knows to handle this auto truck as a variable overhead cash expense. So the data sets are all the master data sets are similar in that way. Here's another example of scrap factor maintenance. So you can set scrap factors or material factors by GL class. So there's lots of opportunities there to manage your data in a really easy, straightforward way. You can also edit. I'm going to just open labor rates here just so you can get one more flavor of data within the system. But you can see here that this is every type of occupation that we have in our organization. You can see the pay rates, you can see the man hours, you can see overtime premium. Every single cost element that could be associated with one type of position is listed here. So anytime that position is called and to calculate a cost, it knows exactly what the pay rate is and how to handle that. Is it a direct or an indirect labor class? Should they receive overhead? There's lots of power here, and just being able to centralize your data and have one place that all your costing data comes from or comes to. There's also material master summary views where we can see all of the materials that could be associated with any of the products that are being produced by this company. So every single item that we have here, you can view that's available. You can also come in and just append a row and add another material. So if you're looking to purchase new materials for new products that you want, you can load that information right here into the material summary view and have that available for any of the products that you are costing. So that's sort of where we live in the data area. I'm going to show you a little bit about the business rules and exceptions because this is where we handle all of the things that don't go typically. You know, it's really great when you build a costing system and you maybe build it in a spreadsheet and you've defined all the rules and everything's working perfectly. Then all of a sudden what happens? The business changes, or there's some exception that you need to make or track. And that's where it really becomes powerful for the product coster. Being able to have a place where you can collect all of those exceptions in business rules so you don't have to muck up your formulas or create other side spreadsheets or something else to solve the problem. So you can see there are some sample exception tables here. Again, these would be dependent upon your business, but these are some of the ones that we see most typically. So managing your obsolescence, pulling out products or materials that you're no longer making, scrap override by product ID. So you can have a particular scrap override for a particular product. So if that one item changes this one time, you always have a place for it. You can audit to see when that scrap factor percentage was changed and get some information about that. So it's a really, really great tool or way to be able to keep all of your exceptions and all of your business rules in one place, and you don't have to get bogged down into trying to track down and trace formulas in order to recalculate or calculate something in a spreadsheet. And you don't have to worry about putting a change request with IT to help them build you a script in your ERP tool to be able to accomplish this. It gives you some real good flexibility right inside the bat. But I'm going to show you some things that you can do once you have all of your product cost information set up. One of them is simulations, and it's a really cool scenario. I could choose a general ledger year, I can choose a period, I can choose a cost system, and I can enter a description, today's webinar, June 2020, sounds good, and say start simulation. And what that does is it creates a simulation environment where I can make some selections about how I want to run my simulation. I can have a material cost simulation. I can choose the group type, if it's a manufactured group type, or if it's a purchase group type, meaning is it a raw material that I'm purchasing outside, or is it something that I'm making internally, right? Is there a specific group that I can pull? So it's gonna, well, there's no groups associated with this because it's manufacturing. I can choose the item, I can put the percentage change in, and I can run that. I'm actually going to open an existing simulation so you can see some results. But basically this is the one I made today. But hang on, I'm gonna open this other one really quickly because it's already populated, but you can see this is a material cost one for boxes, and there's a 5% change. When I click to run simulation, what happens is it goes through and it looks for every product that uses boxes, and it runs the simulation for me. So where I see every material ID, I can see the box's material cost, I can see what the original cost was. With the 5% change, I can see what the new cost was. I can also see those as percentages and the differences. So it gives me a really powerful way to make quick changes and really understand the impact of what's happening to everything that touches that one element. So it's any raw material, any product, any labor code, any overhead account, anything that you want, you can make a change and see the impact of that quickly. The other really powerful tool that we have here in the product coster is the cost estimates world. So a lot of times when you're creating a product, you're not creating it from scratch. You're either taking another product and doing a modification on it, or you have templates of products that maybe you've created and you start from that as a baseline. What the product coster allows you to do is grab any product, make a copy of it in our sandbox environment, make some adjustments to it, and then you calculate your new cost. All the plumbing is already there because Product Coster knows how to calculate the cost because we've set that up. So now it just needs to adjust that. I'm gonna open an existing estimate really quickly so you can see what happens, and you'll see that these screens look very similar to what you experienced before. With the product cost, because it's exactly the same. It uses the same tools and functionality. You know, that's one of the values of using a tool like Product Coster. A lot of times when you're creating a new product and you're just sort of saving a copy of an old spreadsheet and making changes, a lot of times you're unable to incorporate all of the changes, all of the assumptions that you need in order to accurately calculate it, right? You have to make a choice. So this one allows you not to. The same way you calculate production costs is the same way that you calculate your cost estimates. So if you recall from the earlier screen where the inputs were, these were all of the places where I can input information. And again, it gives me my product cost detail. It gives me my expand and collapse so I can see all of the levels of costs that are associated with this particular product, and I can also scroll over and see all of the detailed cost associated with that particular estimate. So it makes the product coster really powerful in that area. So if you're quoting new business or developing new products and you're really trying to get a handle around your costs, it gives you a really powerful tool to do that. I will show you a couple of other things because we're getting a little short on time. One of them is an area that we call validation. I'm not going to click into these too much. Well, I could, but it just shows a grid of data. But what it allows you to do is to make sure that all of the data in your system is available and accurate. So it will check your BOMs to make sure that there aren't any cost elements that are missing. It'll check your throughputs to make sure that there aren't any throughput percentages missing as you go in to calculate cost. You know, some of the times when you kick off these models, you'll get an error, especially in the spreadsheet world. Your spreadsheet will error out and you can't figure out why or what's going on. We incorporate validation so you can do some of that before you even get started. To make sure that all your data is clean and ready to be costed. So it's a really powerful tool that within minutes you can do a validation versus maybe hours of picking through spreadsheets to try to figure out where the real challenges were. The last area that I'll explore a bit is the results area. And this is where we can generate different types of reports and views to see the information. So we have different types of users in the product coster, and we have a user that's called a results user, and they're only able to open and view reports and things like that. So if you're looking for ways to share costing data, it's a really great way to get exposure to the information. The analytical reports, and let's see if I can pick one here that's maybe not a huge one. Let's try packaging freight. The analytical reports here, they're really neat. You can pull all the information. What it basically is doing is pulling a set of data from the impact system, and it's going to present it to us in an Excel view that will allow us to, let's see, I don't know if you guys can see my Excel here. It doesn't look like it's popped up yet, but here we go. It's going to ask me to save it, and I'm going to open it up, and what you'll see is, sorry, it opened up to the other monitor, of course. Let me see if I can share this with you folks. Sorry, it's not letting me pull it over to the other monitor. Here we go. I'm hoping that you guys are seeing this. But what you'll notice is that this is an entire set of data that's coming from Impact ECS, and it already has built-in pivots. So if you wanted to download all of your packaging, freight, and analytical report information into a spreadsheet and send this off to someone to allow them to be able to look at the data set, again, they could choose if there was multiple subsystems, they could choose that. They could choose whatever GL periods available. You know, there's lots of options here for folks who aren't users of the system to be able to have access to costing information without having access to the system. So it's a really neat feature here. There's also some views that you can see information right here on the screens. Some of them you've seen already, summary cost views, detailed cost views, validation views. So it really makes it a complete system where you can get a lot of value out of. The last place I'll hit is our settings area, and only to show you that there are import and export wizards built into the system. So it allows you to get data to and from other tools that you're using in your organization, or upload CSV files, or reset your period BOM data to go out to your ERP or other tools and pull in your new BOM versions and run your costs for the new period. So it's really versatile and flexible in that way. It gives you a lot of functionality built into the system. So I'm going to flip back here just to wrap up a little bit and tell you guys a few more pieces of information. One of them is that our cloud apps, including the Product Coster, which is what I shared with you today, you know, can really impact your organization and transform the way that you do business. Number one, it can give you confidence in the cost answers that you're sharing, right? It takes away the uncertainty of knowing whether or not the spreadsheet has any errors, or it at least eliminates that significantly. It gives you speed and scale, meaning you can quickly calculate through lots of line items and get really detailed cost information in minutes instead of hours or days. It allows you to focus on analysis, right? You're no longer spending time trying to figure out why the spreadsheet isn't working. You're trying to determine why the cost answers that you received are the ones that you received, right? You get a connected environment where you can either give folks access to the costing tool in the cloud, or you can share that information with them. You can write information back to other systems to make it widely available throughout your organization. So you have lots of options there, and it improves your performance. It allows your company to be able to make the right decisions that they need in order to propel the business forward and stay competitive and ultimately drive profits. So want to learn more? I'm super excited to connect with you and share anything that I can to tell you about Product Coster. Our team is here and they'd love to give you a more in-depth demo if you want to get under the hood of Product Coster and see what it has to offer. So we invite you to do that, as well as to visit us on our website at 3csoftware.com to check out what we have to offer. So again, thanks so much for joining us today. I'm super excited that you were able to spend a little bit of your day learning about product costing. Thanks. Have a great day.